Today's daily lesson, and again, we're today we're streaming across multiple platforms. So if you are a member of FitBiz University and you normally watch and tune into these daily lessons, welcome back. If you are not a member of FitBiz University and you're just watching from one of the other channels, like another Facebook group or YouTube, whatever, welcome to something that we're doing every day, which we call the daily lesson, right? And I do these because I want to hopefully let gym owners, entrepreneurs know that some of the stuff that they're going through, there are real solutions to. There are real skills they can acquire. There are real tools that they can apply to their business that will solve the problem, whatever problem they're facing. And then every now and then on Mondays, I like to talk a little bit more about the mindset of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, because I think it is something that isn't really talked too much about in the industry in general. And you got a lot of these guys that are just, you got to push harder, you got to hustle, you got to hustle more, work more hours. And I think that I represent the opposite viewpoint of that. Not discounting hard work or hustling or anything like that, but I think that there's another way to do things, right? And so on Mondays, I like to talk about that, not just that, but in mindset in general, because at the end of the day, you can have all of the tactics, you can have the best strategies in the world, you can have a great team, but if you can't get your ass up and get after it, that it's going to be really hard to be successful, right? And so this is a place for us to kind of talk with each other. If you're watching this and you're not a business owner or a gym owner, like that's cool too, because you probably have your own goals or a side hustle or whatever that you can apply some of this stuff to, which is why I'm streaming across other platforms. But today is largely about the mindset of how to, if you feel like you're about to give up, right? If you're tired, if you're struggling, these are normal. First off, these are normal feelings to have as a business owner, right? Or a leader or whatever, right? These are completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you, right? There's a lot of stress that goes along with, leading a company, leading a business, even if it's just you and one other person. Like you have a responsibility to people outside of just yourself. And because of that, it brings a higher level of stress and anxiety that a lot of other people don't really have to deal with. And so it's hard to talk with them about that because you automatically feel like they're not quite going to be able to understand you. And to a degree, that's true. I think people are a lot more understanding than, we give them credit for. But I do think that there is some things that you could do to, get out of that mindset and just wake up and get ready to fucking go, right? And I've had to do this a lot myself, because there's times, throughout the entrepreneurial journey. And the way that I look at it is like, here's being a business owner one-on-one or 101. Can I figure out how to do this shit before business just freaking beats me down into submission, right? Because that's literally what the game is, right? You have an idea, you think that you know how to do this thing in a way that people will enjoy or like and give you money for. And as you begin delivering that or growing that business, things go wrong, right? And they will continue to go wrong, right? Nobody has a business where everything just runs perfectly all the time. It doesn't exist, right? And so can you make the issues that are going to go wrong inevitably, can you make them small enough to where it doesn't affect you? Or can you change your perspective on how you view them, right, quickly enough before you just get overwhelmed and quit, right? That's the race of business, right? And so some people, they're very good at and have a strong mindset and they're stubborn, kind of like myself. So that leans itself towards entrepreneurism, right? It makes it easier for me to not quit. Some people figure things out faster than I do, right? And that leans themselves towards, being a great entrepreneur because they won't have as many failures to have to endure, right? But over time, hopefully, in both cases, you either figure out some of those big mistakes. So you're really the things that are going wrong are a little bit minimal, or you change the way that you view them, or you surround yourself with a really cool team and they absorb most of it, right? Now, it doesn't mean that the problems aren't happening at the business, they're just not getting to you, right? And so you don't have to deal with them. Then you'll end up in a place where you do not have the stress and the overwhelm, but you do have the profit. And that's kind of the goal of most, business owners, is to get to that place of freedom, financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of what to do and impact, without the enormous stress that comes along with it. Usually that doesn't happen in the first few years, right? At least it didn't for me. So that kind of brings me back to, okay, let's say we're in that place. We are stressed. We do want to give up. We're running out of money, right? That's usually one of the bigger stressors is money, right? You could usually solve these. Well, over time, I've realized that, any problem you can solve with money is just an expense, right? Because there's a lot of problems in life that money won't solve. And I'm fortunate I don't have those, right? And so that's one way, that's one perspective to look at it. But, let's say that we have some of these feelings going on and we're like, man, is it even freaking worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, the key is to stay in the game, right? The key is to keep on playing, because that is the only thing we can really control throughout this whole journey. And the probability, the longer we own our business, the probability increases that it will be successful, right? Because every time you fail, hopefully you look back and see what you did wrong, and then you do it again, only this time a little bit less worse, until over time you do it marginally good, and even over even more time you do it really good, right? And then the problem is solved. But what about in those beginning stages? Here's what I like to do. I like to plan things out week by week, right? And if you're part of FitBiz University, I've shown you how I do this, like how I actually tactically do this. But for a high level overview, here's what you do. You outline your Monday through Sunday. I definitely include weekends, guys, because if you're really serious about making it in business, most of us don't have the luxury to take, whatever it is, 30% of the week off, which is Saturday and Sunday. Now, not to say that I don't do that now. I absolutely take the weekends off for the most part now, for the most part. But I've always had that mentality of like, whatever it takes, always whatever it takes. And in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, whatever it takes is going to be a lot more work, and a lot more, work ethic, and a lot more grinding and hustling and a lot of those things. That's usually a requirement during the first year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, right? Because volume is all you have. You don't have leverage yet. You haven't built a team. You don't have people around you that you can leverage. So you have to trade your time for money, right? You have to. Now down the road, when you start bringing on a team and surrounding yourself with other people, more hours that you're working, it doesn't serve you because now you have leverage, right? And so you don't have to trade your time for money. You're trading other people's time for money. And that's part of the scaling process. But in the beginning, very much so, what we want to do is we want to put in volume, right? Because that is what allows us to make these small failures. And it's a loop, right? You try something and it doesn't work. You make the correction and it works. Hopefully you have one loop. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 if you're trying something really complex, right? Well, in order to cut down or to find the solution faster, you need more time to repeat this process more and more and more, right? So what I like to do is outline my Monday through my Sunday, and and this might be on a weekend, and then really prioritize what I'm doing every single day, right? Right off the bat, that puts me into a proactive mind state, not a reactive. I have to be able to do this because I've took off an hour of the week to really prioritize what I should be doing, and I'm doing this with a clear mind, right? And that way I can stick to a plan. The number one way to decrease stress and overwhelm is to create a plan and stick to that plan, right? If you're just winging it, if you are just freaking, as stuff comes in, you're reacting to it and just trying to put out fires all day long, that's when you get to the end of the week and you feel like you got nothing done. You were busy as shit, but you couldn't list off 5 things you actually got done. Right. And so a lot of the times what you're doing is you're working really hard, but in a misprioritized way. Right. So it feels like you're not actually accomplishing big things. You're not moving the needle forward. You're not pushing that big stone forward. So what we have to do is, let's say Monday we have 10 things to do. We put them in order of priority, most important to least important. Right. And then we do the same thing on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But we make sure that if we get all of these things done, it will ultimately lead to having this bigger stone moved, right? So let's say in the month, if we really want to, make some progress in our business, we've identified like 4 big stones that we got to push forward. And if we get these things done, that's substantial, right? That's really going to put us in a cool place to succeed, right? And so I like to create my week so detailed that if I accomplish all of these things, it would be unreasonable to not have pushed that stone forward, right? Those things are, as a direct result of doing these things, it will move me forward in that direction, right? So part of it is really outlining that strategy. And even if it takes an hour, it's going to dictate what you spend the next 70 hours of your week doing. So it's worth that hour because you're prioritizing. Then as things start coming in, which they inevitably do, we have to cross-reference our list and say, well, what are the 10 things I already have listed on this list? And if John's sending you an email that says, hey, can you please do X, Y, or Z, or hey, I need this, or whatever, whether it's a customer or it's a member or a client or a customer or a team member, whatever, right? You have to look at what you already have on your list and make a decision. Either you're going to do what this guy wants you to do, right? Or you're going to tell him, I'll do it, but I can't do it now. Or you're going to say, hey, we'll do it now, but I can't do it. I'm delegating it. Or, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I can't help with that, right? And that is prioritizing. And so we are now prioritizing the most important things. But you're looking at your list and saying, well, I already have this on my list, right? So whatever you're asking me to do, it has to be more important than one of these things if you want me to do it today, right? If you want me to do it right now, shit, it's got to be more important than what I have already scheduled right now. Otherwise, I'm going to delegate it. And there's a little, there's a chart that helps you understand prioritization, but it's pretty basic. If it's urgent and it is important, then that's a scenario where you would do it right now, right? If it's urgent, but it's not important, that's a scenario where you would delegate it. You still do it right now, but you delegate it to somebody else because it's not that important, right? If it's not urgent, but it's important, right? That's when you might, move it to one of your other days, maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Still important enough for you to do yourself, but it doesn't have to be done right now, right? And then finally, it's not urgent and it's not important. And this is where you have to learn to say no. Say, hey, sorry, I can't do that for you, right? And, if you're trying to please everybody, good luck at getting ahead because you can't be afraid to say no, right? And in fact, the higher you go up in business, the more you have to say no. Right? And get good at saying no because everybody's going to want a piece of your time. Everyone's going to ask you to do something for them. Everybody's going to want to bend your ear or pick your brain, right? And so what you want to do is you really want to get good at developing that list maybe on a Sunday and knocking that shit out, making it happen, and really being able to, cast a vision to saying, if I get these things done, it will put me in this place, right? And the art of getting those things done and then becoming in having yourself being put in that new place, that is what keeps you in momentum. That is what reduces the stress because you can look back at the week and say like, holy shit, I got all of this done, and because I got all of this done, I'm out of this place. I'm not out of the woods yet, but I'm out of this hard place, right? So what do I need to do next week? And the following week, and the following week, right? And the better you get at doing this, sitting down thinking, really put some thought into, like what are the exact, like where do you want to be in a week from now or a month from now? Right. Sometimes you get a little bit better when you can forecast a little bit longer. But then, what are the exact actions that I need to take in order to make this a reality, and write all of them down and then commit yourself to doing them, not getting distracted, saying no, having non-negotiables, right? Having non-negotiables that you don't bend for anybody, right? And living by your priorities. And if you can start doing this and you can stay consistent with it, you really stay in momentum, right? And then, hopefully after a few years, and I know it sounds like a long time, guys, but that's the reality of it, but hopefully after a few years, your whatever it takes, that just becomes a lot less, right? Not that you're unwilling to do whatever it takes. I'm always going to be willing to do whatever it takes. But now my whatever it takes is just not quite as much as whatever it took in the beginning years, right? Because in the beginning years, I took I would consider it to be a disproportionate amount of risk compared to everybody else I knew in my family, my friends, whatever. I took way more risk to be able to live my dream than any of them did, you know? And so I feel like now I should be able to have a disproportionate amount of reward because of that, you know? And so anybody that says like, oh, it must be nice or whatever, guys, that's just a victim's mindset. That's all it is, right? Because you could do the same thing. You're just unwilling to take the risk. You're unwilling to do what I did, right? And because of that, you are not going to get what I'm getting, right? And every entrepreneur knows that, right? So then at the end of the day, you have to say to yourself, right, am I willing to do these things? It's the things you put on your list, right? If you get to the end of the week and you just didn't do them and you don't have a good reason why, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, right? There's your answer right there. You lack the motivation, right? And shit, it's already hard enough to be a successful entrepreneur if you're motivated, right? If you're not motivated, man, this is going to be a real tough journey for you, right? And so at the end of the day, like strategize, create your strategic plan, tactically execute all of those things. If you don't know how to do the things that you need to do in order to get to the place that you want to go, that's when you hire a coach or a mentor, or you buy a course, or you read a book, or something, because you at some point you will be stopped by your own individual skill set, right? So the way I look at it is like skills are knowledge applied, right? So you could read a million books in the world, okay, and you'll be very knowledgeable, right? But until you apply those things, they don't actually become a skill set, right? That you have a working knowledge of, right? So don't spend your whole life reading shit to be an academic and never actually applying any of it, because you'll die really smart and never having accomplished anything, okay? And so my advice would be to find somebody or a thing or whatever that can then teach you and level you up in the skills area, so you can continue executing harder and harder things on your list, right? And or over time, hiring the people that already have that skill set so they can execute harder and harder things on your list. But it starts with you. Create that list, make it so detailed that if you accomplish and you cross off everything on that list, it would be unreasonable to not reach the place that you have to get to in order to get to that next level. And that action in itself gets you back in momentum. It gets you fired up again. It makes you not want to quit. And then you repeat that process week over week over week. Before you know it, man, you're in a whole new world. So thank you for taking the time to tune into this. Hopefully it helped some of you guys. And I will be back on tomorrow with some real tactical stuff on how to do things. I don't like to do too much strategic, thinking. I like to just get after just what are the exact things you need to do to solve this particular problem at your gym. And tomorrow we will be talking about generating a shitload of leads, right? So if you are part of the program, join in for that. And in about 10 minutes, we have our coaching call. See you guys.